it's like, you in the midst of the city, you downtown Atlanta.
Facts.
And it's like, I think I came up at a time when it was just New York and LA. Like everybody was thinking about journalism and media when it came to the South.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, we're just as dope as New York. We're just as dope as LA. We just have to prove it.
That's right.
So for my thing, I was just wanted to kind of like, some real dope people in media in the South, in Atlanta in particular.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to put on, man. So I was hustling, man. So when I was at Georgia State, I was interviewing those. I was at, if there was any event, I would just pull up.
Wow.
At that time you had a recorder.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
I would just pull up to any artist, try to get an interview, and I would sell the interviews to the publications in New York.
Wow.
Because they didn't have journalists down here that were full-time staff. Man. They would just have like freelancers. So I had ended up doing some stuff for The Source, XXL.
Legendary publications.
Yeah, Slam Magazine.
Wow.
Had some publications out on the West Coast that I was working for. And this was all at Georgia State. While I was, in college, I was just like, I got to hustle harder than everybody else. And I think one thing that helped out was that the Atlanta music scene was flourishing.
Yeah.
And so everybody was trying to figure out what was the sauce down in Atlanta.
Wow.
And I was here and I just took advantage of that moment.
Wow. I love that, man. Taking advantage of a moment.
For sure.
Telling stories. How'd that Good people, what's up, what's good, man? Blessed be host Caleb Smith. Today we have a very special episode, man. Someone that I've been following and seeing since college days at State. Someone that's going to Georgia State as well. My professors at events, journalism events, I will always see him and have much respect for him. Trap History is a dope book. That's out. He's a great author. You've seen him on ABC, NBC, pretty much all the alphabets. You've seen him on BET, Revolt, just doing amazing things, man, and killing it for Atlanta-native, which is something that you don't find at all. I have a dad from Cascade who takes pride in that, man. So seeing you being from Atlanta, I appreciate you, man. The great A.R. Shaw. How you feeling today, man?
Man, much respect, man.
Thank you, brother.
Much respect, man. I'm just happy to be here. Happy to see the growth.
Thank you.
Happy to see everything come together, man.
Thank you.
It's an honor for me to be here to see your growth in real time.
Thank you, man. Humble. A.R., you've been doing this for a long time, man. You're mad consistent. Following you, I'm on social media. You're always doing great interviews, whether it's Master P, Young Dolph, Gucci. Like, we talking about legends, T.I., Jeezy. Like, man, for me, just seeing that, a young black man who's killing the game, having great conversations. And journalism, like, it's an art. Like, now, everybody has a cell phone. Everybody's creating content. But you write, you interview, you're on camera. Where did that spark come from where, you just said, I want to tell people stories? How'd that start?
It's real, man. It's funny because it came from over here. It's Georgia State. Like, we're right in the midst of Georgia State.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, that hunger came. And it was like, you in the midst of the city, you downtown Atlanta.
Facts.
And it's like, I think I came up at a time when it was just New York and LA. Like everybody was thinking about journalism and media when it came to the South.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, we're just as dope as New York. We're just as dope as LA. We just have to prove it.
That's right.
So for my thing, I was just wanted to kind of like, some real dope people in media in the South, in Atlanta in particular.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to put on, man. So I was hustling, man. So when I was at Georgia State, I was interviewing those. I was at, if there was any event, I would just pull up.
Wow.
At that time you had a recorder.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
I would just pull up to any artist, try to get an interview, and I would sell the interviews to the publications in New York.
Wow.
Because they didn't have journalists down here that were full-time staff. Man. They would just have like freelancers. So I had ended up doing some stuff for The Source, XXL.
Legendary publications.
Yeah, Slam Magazine.
Wow.
Had some publications out on the West Coast that I was working for. And this was all at Georgia State. While I was, in college, I was just like, I got to hustle harder than everybody else. And I think one thing that helped out was that the Atlanta music scene was flourishing.
Yeah.
And so everybody was trying to figure out what was the sauce down in Atlanta.
Wow.
And I was here and I just took advantage of that moment.
Wow. I love that, man. Taking advantage of a moment.
For sure.
Telling stories. How'd that feel, man? Just covering those stories. And then I would say, man, even deeper, which is crazy because like we don't even do that anymore, is selling those stories. Yeah. Like break down that whole process back then about having to find a source, XXL, and say, yo, I'm A.R. Shaw. Here's my story. Let me shoot this over to you, this interview. That's a whole process. So how did that even happen?
So the thing is, it's really about relationships, right? And so once you get someone's email, you just pitch them. You pitch them. You like, yo, I got, I'm going to be so-and-so place. I'm going to have an interview with Lil Scrappy. So it's like, do you want this interview? Most times if the publication's in New York, they're not going to fly anybody down to New York to interview Lil Scrappy. But Lil Scrappy at the time was popping. Wow. So it was like, yo, like they would actually say, okay, all right, do the interview in the article, send it to us, and and that's how you sell it. Right. But you basically have to put yourself out there. You marketing yourself, letting people know that you're on the ground and you're actually able to touch these individuals. Yeah. And so that's where it started, man. Just having that hustle and that grind to really just go out and get it.
I love that. Marketing, man. As young journalists, who could be like tapping in right now, how should we market ourselves and our stories, our storytelling capabilities, all those things? How should we go about that?
Man, y'all got it easy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, you're right. I can't even
tell you. So when I was in college, I'm going to tell you my age, but it's like, all the stuff was just starting. Like Facebook was just starting. YouTube was just starting. Instagram, all that was just starting. So when I was in school, they didn't really have classes about social media, and so we didn't really have that I guess that intel back then. Yeah. So we had to kind of learn on the go. But now you could just create your own platforms. Right. Like you don't really have to ask for permission anymore. I don't, if I was in college now, I wouldn't have to call New York and say, I got an interview with so-and-so.
You just post.
I just post it on YouTube, post it on my Instagram, post it on social media and build a following. And once you build a following, people say, okay, this person is actually doing dope stuff. Wow. And so I think for now, you just have to use the platforms that you have to use. You have to use social media as much as possible. Yeah. You should have a YouTube page. I actually had I spoke with the students at Atlanta University a couple of weeks ago, and I said everyone should have at least a YouTube page. Yeah. Like, you can't be a media student without a YouTube page.
That's right.
And you can build your own content nowadays, man. And there are programs. I was actually at the Google office yesterday. I was at the Google office, and they said they have accelerated programs where they would actually work with creators and teach them how to produce content. Wow. And a lot of people don't even know that, but they have these classes at Google where you can just learn on the go. Man. And they will support you financially to kind of help you along the way.
It's a cheat code.
It's a cheat code.
Wow. Okay. So, man, creating your own content back then, which wasn't easy. Now, speaking about creating your own content, you just took that to a whole nother level. Trap history, seeing when it came out, everybody showing love, supporting it. What was the whole inspiration behind that? Because as you see now, like everything has trap in front of it, whether it's trap yoga, trap karaoke, trap this, trap that. So, but back then, trap, it wasn't cool. So how did that whole just inspiration and mindset come from, I got to create this book about trap history?
That's interesting, man. The interesting story about trap history, the book, is that it started because of the slang. The term trap was just a slang in Atlanta. In the 90s, it was a slang and people would just say it. Of course, T.I., he created trap music, the album. And that kind of, and morphed into a genre. And then, you had Gucci and Jeezy all coming around the same time, making trap a genre. Yeah. But I went to London in 2012 for the Olympics. I was covering the Olympics in London. Wow. And we go to this bar, like after one of the matches, we went to a bar, and then we was talking to some of the people out in London. And they were telling me, they said they had this, I was talking to a girl in London. She was like, they have trap night. And I'm just like, okay, they have a trap night in London. I'm like, what? This not making sense. Now this is probably 2000. It was 2012. So trap was still kind of growing. It wasn't, as mainstream as it is now. Yeah. And so I was like, wow, like, if it's people in London talking about something that happened in Atlanta, sound from Atlanta, it's bigger than what I'm thinking it is. Wow. I think a lot of times when we live in something, we don't really understand the magnitude of what we're doing because we're actually just here. Yeah. But it's like people in other places, they see us and they're amazed by the work that we're doing. And I was like, no one has actually put the history of it in book form. This is a few years before the Trap Music Museum, a few years before any of that. Like I initially started in 2014. start crafting the idea of just putting a book together. And yeah, man, my initial thoughts was that it was going to come out in 6 months. I was like, because I had the idea already written in I had the story in my head. And I said, it's going to come out in 6 months, right? But stuff was happening as I was writing it. When I started writing, Little Baby Hand came out. Gunna Hand came out. A lot of it, like, you know what I'm saying? It was like, the genre was growing in the midst of while I was writing it. Yeah. And so I had to continue to kind of add on. And around 2020, I was like, that's when the pandemic happened. I was like, let me just go ahead and put it out. Because stuff is going to continue to happen. So I put it out during the pandemic, man, and it did what it did, man, and it's continuing to do what it do. Like, so I'm enjoying the success. It's definitely something I'm proud of. Just something a way to tell another part of the history of Atlanta and our culture.
I love that, man. Seeing again a young Black writer who's dope. Write a Black story that's like unapologetic.
Oh yeah.
How did that feel, man? Because like on the cover, like you can feel it, and it's not you trying to be polished and clean about it. It's trapped. So how did that feel, man? Just knowing it's done. What was that like for you?
Well, it's the crazy thing about it is I still don't think it's done because it's like it was
you can have
so
a series.
much. I can have a series. So much has happened since I put it out, man.
That's facts.
And so. For me, it was something I had to let go because it was like if I don't, just put it out, I'm just gonna continue to just work on it. Yeah. But yeah, man, it's just so much has happened, man. Yeah. Unfortunately, with Young Thug and Gunna's R.I.C.O case, that kind of like shed light on and it brought attention to trap music earlier this summer. Of course, ABC News hit me up, NBC, different publications, the BBC, the Canadian broadcast, like so many national and worldwide publications, they were hitting me up because they wanted to know what was the gist of trap, like where did it come from, like what about where did these stories come from? And so I think it's something that's going to continue because Atlanta still has the pulse of the nation when it comes to culture, specifically with music. So I think it's something that's going to continue because people are still interested in the culture of Atlanta.
Yeah, I feel that, man. Culture, that's a buzzword that's thrown around all the time for the culture. But at the same time, Atlanta is that, right? What do you think makes Atlanta so special?
It's several things, man. I think it's like you have to understand. I think people have to understand what Atlanta was before music and before all of that came about. Like we were a city that was always mobilizing. You think about the civil rights movement, that was about mobilizing, you know what I'm saying, coming together for a specific cause. And so you have the kids of that generation, coming together for culture, and it's in a different sense, but it's like we're coming together. A lot of the artists and producers, they work together and they kind of help each other out, help each other get on. So I think that's one thing that kind of helps the city grow. Yeah. But also you just have so many unique people and so many people who are just creative. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a creative hub.
That's right.
I always say that Atlanta is like the Silicon Valley of music. Like it's a city where you can come here and you can find creatives in every space. Wow. And you don't really have that in other cities. Yeah. I think we have a wealth of talent here. And, you think about someone that's in Iowa, they would never experience what we're experiencing every single day. And I think sometimes we might take it for granted. When you go outside of Atlanta, you tell someone I'm from Atlanta, their eyes light up. Yeah. Like as soon as you say that, they're like, oh wow, you from Atlanta?
He's from Wakanda.
You're from Wakanda. So it's a special thing, man. I think we have to take pride in it, but we also have to protect it. We have to make sure that we're being intentional about the way how we move. Yeah. Because it's important that we maintain it and we own it. So I think that's our next step is really to like make sure that next generation that we guide them, let them know, okay, this is what we need to do to maintain what we have.
Maintaining it, protecting, our culture, all those things. In journalism and in media, how do we go about that? Because now there's so many people that's moving here that can now try to tell these stories or especially in like journalism where they can quote a Black writer multiple times and they're basically just copying it and pasting. So how do we like protect our own stories when it comes to Black media, Black journalism here in Atlanta?
I think you're doing what you're doing. Like if people doing what you're doing, creating these platforms where it's like, okay, your name is on it. You know what I'm saying? You own this content. And so that's a big thing. It's like, I remember my good friend, Isaac Hayes III, like a few years ago, he was like, it's probably like 5 years ago. He was like, why doesn't Atlanta have a Breakfast Club? Why doesn't Atlanta have a Hot 97 or a Sway where it's like people want to come and tell their stories?
Man.
And it's so much culture here, so many creatives here. Yeah. Why don't we have that those same platforms? And so I think he really put a kind of a fire on everybody in media to say we have to step our game up. Like we really have to like own the space, because the culture is here. Like, of course, New York, they started hip hop, but you ask anybody, like Atlanta is where the culture we're still the pulse of the culture, especially hip hop culture,
that's right.
which is Black culture, which is Black youth culture. So it's here. Like this weekend, you got the Revolt Music Conference. Next week, you had the BET Hip Hop Awards. They're in Atlanta. They could be in any city in America.
That's right.
They could be in Miami. They could be in New York. They could be in LA. But those two big events chose to be in Atlanta. Like, what does that say about the city?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's something that's big, and I think we have to understand what we have. And I think as media outlets and as journalists, we have to take advantage of these moments. We have to make sure that, if there is a revolt here, how are we capturing that story? How are we capturing the BET Hip Hop Awards? How are we making sure that we're telling the story from our point of view? Because there's going to be people flying in from other cities telling, giving their perspective, but being from Atlanta, we have to own this space. We have to be like, okay, this is what it is. This is what Atlanta is. This is what it represents.
I love that, man. In the book, you talk about legends like Kilo Ali. A lot of people have no idea like who that is, and then seeing, Beyonce trying to use like certain parts of the song.
Yeah.
How did that feel, knowing that you was putting us on to people like that from the 80s and 90s, and now seeing the greatest, biggest artists in the world sampling that? What was that like for you? Because you was already on that.
Man, it's so crazy. Like, like I was, the thing is like, so Beyonce drops her album earlier this summer, and, I'm just skimming through it, just like, okay, this is, very upbeat album, dance album. And I get to the track, I think it's track 14. It says America, America. And I'm just like, what? What is this? So I think for people in Atlanta, it was like a shock, because Kilo Ali came out at a time where people weren't really paying attention to Atlanta from a national standpoint. He was a regional artist. Wow. So people from New York, LA, some people in Florida knew about him, but the major cities they didn't know about Kilo Ali. It was something that was kind of a Southern Atlanta thing. And to see Beyonce like actually use that the beat, and the Dream, who was an Atlanta native. He was the producer on it.
Wow. All right. So now everything's starting to connect.
Makes sense. So he connected it. So so we got to thank the Dream for like bringing that side of Atlanta, that because Kilo Ali came during the bass culture, the bass music culture of the late 80s and early 90s. And just to see Beyonce give that song a whole nother light, it was like it was amazing. It was crazy. I mean, I was at the Yeek Fest last week. Wow. So the Yeek, for people who don't know, is a dance from Atlanta, and it based from Atlanta. And people it was like a dance from the early 80s, 90s. People would hit them in the skating rinks, and it was just a Yeek dance. And it just shows you that, man, like our culture is really deep. You know what I'm saying? It's layers to it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was telling, man, people our generation, we have to make sure that people know what we are, who we are, and we have to protect it. Yeah,
I love that, man. Trap history. I love that title. Just overall, like, what is our history of just trap music, if you can try to like condense that?
So it's twofold. So if when you delve into the book, there are several sections, right? The first section is the music. The second section is the streets. And so I talk about the real side of trap. And I, during the writing of the book, I went to the Bluff and I interviewed people who were addicted to heroin. And it's the ugly side. It's the ugly side of the trap, and people who are fighting with addiction to this day. And I think a lot of times in the music, you hear about the sale of narcotics, but you don't really hear about the effects of addiction. That's right. And so that's something that I wanted to show in this book, is that there are repercussions to your biggest drug dealer that's saying that they're selling so much whatever weight or whatever. There are lives behind it. Man. There are mothers who are strung out on heroin while their kids are right there. So I wanted to show that side. And so, one of the chapters in the book is just this goes into the buff and the reality of addiction and how it tears apart families, how it destroys lives. And so I wanted to make sure that I actually gave that substance as well as the music so that people won't get lost and say, okay, this is all what trap is, and this is something we can play with. No, it's real lives that's behind this music. There's real lives of people who are being affected by this music to this day. There's still traps and people who are addicted to narcotics to this day who are trying to get off. And so, as a journalist, that's what my job is to do, is to tell all sides of the story. And so that's what I wanted to do.
That's heavy, bro. Going to the bluff, pulling up on the addicts, talking to them, like that's. First of all, I commend you because that's like genius too, of like actually having boots to the ground, talking to the people. What was that experience like? Just getting out the whip, having a recorder, pen and pad maybe, and just asking questions, talking to them.
So I went during the day. So they have a needle exchange program that they do in the Bluff every Wednesday, where they exchange needles with individuals who are addicted. And so I went during that day where several were individuals, and it was interesting because you had individuals from the community and you had people outside of the communities getting needles. Like it was a lady, it was a Caucasian lady who drove up in a BMW.
What?
To get syringes.
You serious?
Dead serious in the book. So she drives a BMW. She looks, like, regular soccer mom, but she goes in line to get syringes to shoot heroin. And so it just shows me that, this is not, this is a major thing. But I interviewed several individuals who were in the line that day. Talked to a young brother, an older brother named Kareem. He talked about how he became addicted to heroin, at an early age, and he could never escape it. And like he was literally trapped. Like he couldn't escape the addiction. He couldn't find a way to get out. And so he was trapped in this environment and he didn't know how to get out. I talked to another guy who was actually who sold drugs, and he just talked about selling drugs in the 1980s and how he started out with a few rocks, and then he was able to kind of flip that money in different ways, and he was making. I think he said he was making like $5,000 to $10,000 a day. Man, it was something crazy
back then too. That's a lot of money.
It was a lot of money back then. But he eventually got addicted to crack cocaine as well.
Wow.
Yeah, he said that he tried to. A girl convinced him to put crack cocaine in his weed, and he hit it one time, and he said after that he was addicted. But he eventually was able to break himself away from it. Yeah. But I mean, just to hear those stories, those stories in the book. Yeah. Like, like I said, I wanted to really tell all sides of what the trap is. And so you can't tell one side of the music game and not really talk about the reality of what trap is and where it comes from.
I love that, man. Yeah. In the trap, like what you said, in one breath, you could be making 5 to 10 stacks a day. At the same time, that same person could be addicted to that very thing that you've been selling.
Yeah.
At the same time as well, mass incarceration blows up during the late 80s, early 90s as well. 94 crime bill too. In the book, I already know, man, you talk about that at length. But overall, the trap as well, Black men get trapped. So if you can, please just expound on how that affected us when it comes to our fathers, our uncles, brothers, of just seeing them, starting off in the trap, but then be trapped inside of prison for a very long time.
So I don't know if we want to show at some point when I want to show this artwork that I have inside of the book.
Nah, please. Hey, if you want to right now,
so we can do it. I want you to grab the book and flip to the second or third page.
I got you.
Right there.
Perfect.
Okay, so that was basically what it was. What you're talking about, this mass incarceration piece, and so if you look at the artwork, on one hand is a diamond encrusted watch. You have the pinky ring and a microphone that represents the success of artists and artists who escape the trap and they're able to use their music to get out of a predicament. On the other hand, is kind of a rough hand, and it's like there's a sack of crack cocaine in the other hand, but there's handcuffs on that hand, right? And so, in a sense, you're trapped. That's another level of being trapped. Trapped in this era of Black pain and not being able to escape it. Yeah. But also trapped when it comes to incarceration and not being able to escape that as well. I go deep into the 94 crime bill and how the disparities of crack cocaine occurred following the 1986 anti-drug act that occurred. And so we talk about that and how brothers in the 80s, they were making a lot of money, and all of a sudden you get this you get the 1986 bill, and then you get the 94 crime bill, and you have brothers doing life in jail for selling narcotics, ultimately being trapped again. Yep. And so that's just another level of it, as far as you're in this environment where you're trying to figure out a way. You see a lot of people making money doing something, and it's just a trap, because it's like you make money for a few summers. Yeah, they build their case on you, hit you with the R.I.C.O. Yeah, and now you got 20 years, and 20 years of your youth. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You can't get your youth back. That's right. And Black youth are powerful because you see how we influence so much. That's right. Black youth influence the world. Our dress, our culture, our talk. You look at social media, all of that is Black youth influence. And so they take those years away from you. And so I really wanted to kind of highlight that in the book as well, is that, there are repercussions to the other side that we don't really hear all the time. And so I just wanted to, put on my journalist hat, and tell all sides of the story. Yeah, man, that's powerful. Yeah. Black youth being important. Cases, again, YSL as well. You already talked about that earlier too, but seeing how R.I.C.O charges are now, coming into play, and Atlanta PD's not playing, District Attorney's not playing. Initially, how did you feel seeing trap music has blown up, of course. You got Migos, you got Gunna Thug. But seeing Gunna and Thug, arguably the top artists right now in Atlanta, be thrown in jail, like, how did you feel about that? And then seeing that this was a big charge, like it's a R.I.C.O charge. What were your thoughts on that at first? It was shocking. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody in the city was shocked. Yeah. Because it was something we all thought that they had enough opportunities to pretty much distance themselves from any level of crime that needed that, because they worldwide, artists. Like Young Thug is just a major artist anywhere. Yeah. He can do concerts in Germany. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can sell out a concert anywhere in the world, on the globe. So that was just it was shocking to see that, these two brothers who we thought had made it out of the trap, made it out of those predicaments, and become trapped again into this case, this R.I.C.O case. And I read the indictment. It's it's a lot. It's very detailed. And there's a lot going to come out when the trial starts in January 2023. And I don't know. It's just I hate to see it, because I covered both of those guys in the sense of what them giving back to the community. Like Thug gave back in a lot of ways. Yeah. Gunna gave back. Actually, I was school. Yeah, he gave back to his school. I was actually at Gunna's. He did a Gunna Fest on Saturday, like a few days ago, where he did a carnival for all the kids on Old National. It was a free carnival, free food, free rides. So you see guys like that who were actually impacting the community in positive ways, being taken away from the community. Yeah. That's a major hit. That's a major hit. But I think it's also an important lesson for that next generation as well, is that once you get to a certain level, you kind of have to distance yourself from, certain environments and certain people. You got to kind of let things go. Yeah. Because with the R.I.C.O, law is like it's like a large net. Yeah. And they can pretty much, lock you up and charge you off of association. Guilty by association. Man. They can say that you were a part of an organization, and you probably was just someone that's your friend that does dirt, but you're someone you grew up with. Yeah. And so but it's interesting because it's like, coming from our communities, we grew up around people who may not necessarily have the success that we have, but they're still your friends. Like you know these people since second grade, and you know these people since third grade, and they may have gone on a different path, but you still consider them, you know, friends and sometimes family.
That's right.
And so for us, it's kind of hard to separate because these are the people who we've been around all of our lives. But you know, when they hit you with a R.I.C.O, it's like you just being a part of having a conversation with somebody, and they can, you know, say that there was some type of legal activity can put you in a bad predicament.
Man, so staying on that same point, do you feel like Atlanta artists are being targeted on purpose right now from all the money that's being exchanged, the popularity? Do you feel like DAs are now just trying to go after the biggest Black artists here in the city on purpose?
Well, I don't know if it's on purpose, but I think we have to kind of really pay attention to what we're putting out now, right? So it's like, all right, so it's like this is the play now. You know, you can't snitch on yourself no more. You can't like your lyrics can't, you know, you can't talk about, you know, you did this then, you did it. Nah, you gotta kind of figure out another way to express yourself. Yeah. Cause now you see that they're taking your lyrics and they want to charge you based on what you're saying. And so, you know, I've been on several, you know, major platforms, and I've talked that like hip hop is the only platform where you have to take your art, where the artist is pretty much like a part of the case. Wow, you know, it doesn't happen in any other art form except hip hop. And so I think we just have to realize that, you know, this is the play now. Yeah, you know, if you got to be more smart, you have to kind of move better. You have to create music that that's gonna be more impactful. Yeah. You know, I'm not telling anybody to like water down their stories, but be smart about it. Yeah. You know, they're listening. Yeah. Like, you know, 2 Chainz had a song back years ago. The fans watching. Like they're watching your every move. Like they're watching your social media. Like you can't be a social media gangster no more. Man. Showing money and guns on social media and think that's not gonna come back to you. Yeah. You have to be smart the way you move. I think that's just the major I guess lesson from all of this is that pay attention. Man. Because everybody is watching now. Yeah. Everybody.
Man, social media, people watching. Right now, hip hop is experiencing a lot of deaths. PNB Rock, that death correlated with, you know, social media as well. People like Nip dying, Dolph, you know, who you had the pleasure of interviewing, powerful as well. How do you feel, man, just seeing so many Black artists in hip hop dying so much, Black men as well?
It's sad, man. You know, in the book, I have a chapter called Rap's Death Trap. And it's basically, you know, I go down a list of different artists who we thought had escaped their life and was able to make a way for their families, but then they get taken out. And so it shows you that, you know, rappers are under attack, you know, and it's like our own communities a lot of times. It's like, you know, sometimes a lot of times it's jealousy. Yeah. A lot of times people don't want to see you, you know, better than them or having more than them. So there's a lot of jealousy and envy within our communities. And I think we have to check that. You know, I think we have to really like pay attention to what's happening in our communities. Yeah. You know, there's power in words. You know, there's power in the energy you put out. Yeah. And, you know, if you're putting out a lot of negative energy, sometimes people want to try you and say, okay, this is, you know, this is who you are. I'm going to try you. And these are people who don't have anything to lose. You know, like years ago, Jay-Z had a line, if you shoot me, you famous. But if I shoot you, I'm brainless. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a catch-22. Like, you know, so it's like you got to really, you know, just pay attention and watch how you move. Yeah. But I think as a community, we have to check each other as well. It's like, you know, the people who are doing harm in our communities, we have to call them out. You know, if a cop kills somebody, we gonna march. Yeah. If somebody in our community kills somebody, we need to march as well. You know what I'm saying? We gotta call these people out. Yeah. You know, it's important for us to do that.
Man, that's powerful. Yeah. You being from Atlanta, man, you've seen it change a lot. I can only imagine. You've seen Turner Field now become something else. SunTrust Park, Phillips Arena.
Oh yeah.
Or probably, man, you probably seen it as like the Omni as well.
The Omni, yeah.
Yeah, it changed to all this.
Yeah,
Georgia Dome, all these things, man. In the book, you talk about gentrification, which is a real big thing that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Apartments or public housing such as Bowen Homes being torn down, Bankhead changing. How has gentrification affected what we know as the trap?
Man, it's like so the Bluff now has homes for like 400,000.
What?
It's like
that don't even sound right.
They don't sound right, but it's like in that area, Bankhead, West Side. Yeah. You seeing condos being put up on the belt line on the west side,
especially on the belt line.
$500,000.
Yeah,
and these are like places. Just in perspective that you could get like a house over in the Bluff for like 20,000-30,000, man, like 10 years ago, easily, or less than that. Like, so it's just, it's two things, right? There are repercussions to that because it's like, the affordability of Atlanta is definitely gone up. Like, you got to make more money now. And now you have a situation where people are not making as much money, and that can lead to crime as well.
Yeah,
where people are like, affordability.
I gotta eat.
People gotta eat.
Yeah,
and so that creates a desperate situation as well. The Beltline, it did a lot as far as making Atlanta a more attractive city, but as far as providing affordable housing, which was the initial plan that I talked about in the book, they didn't do that. The affordable housing, they kind of was like put it in the back burner and it never happened. And so you have a lot of people being displaced now. Yeah. And Atlanta, the way you see it now in 10 years is going to be totally different. Hopefully the political leaders can see what's happening and try to do what's best as far as to keep individuals who have always been here to protect their homes, because once the property goes up, your property taxes go up as well. And so there's individuals who may not be able to pay their property taxes now. And so it's just a big thing. On one hand, it makes the city again more attractive. But on the other side, it's a lot of repercussions, negative repercussions as well.
Wow. 96 Olympics, what impact do you feel like that, possibly had on the city? Gentrification, Beltline being formulated, underground Atlanta really isn't even a thing anymore. So do you feel like that probably changed some things as well?
Well, the Olympics will, that it changed a little bit at the Olympics. I think the Olympics brought more eyes to Atlanta, particularly with the culture too, because around the Olympics you had Outkast, you had JD, So Def doing their thing, LaFace Records. You had so many. The culture was thriving. During the Olympics, the '96. That's when everybody was like, "Oh, this is what Atlanta is doing." So that was kind of the year when the culture started to pop. From the city and community side. I actually have a chapter in that as well, as far as like the housing projects that were demolished during that time, and they basically they demolished all the housing projects, shipped most people out to Riverdale, Clayton County, gave them those vouchers to get them out of the city, and that was, and they basically turned Atlanta to mixed income housing, displacing a lot of people, so. It had a tremendous impact on the city, and it definitely changed the city. And it's what you see today kind of stems from the '96 Olympics. Man,
that's crazy, man. Growing up, Outkast was like that group for me. They were dope. Spodiotes, Dopalicious, one of my favorite songs. I played that like all the time, and it was just like one day, and I kid you not, I saw you. I'm on Instagram, Trap History. I was playing the song, and then I heard Big Boy say trap. I was like, whoa, that's the first time, thanks to you though, really, like I could actually hear it, man. How have you seen the word trap evolve? Because hearing that, like the late 90s to now, it's being used all the time. Of course, again, going back to Kilo Ali, then you got Tip, you got Jeezy. When do you feel like trap really like took off as like an everyday term in rap?
In Atlanta, first in Atlanta, it was every day because this is what it was. Like we knew what it was. The first time trap was actually said on the record, Cujo says, Andre said it in Players Ball. He said, "I set up trap." and players ball. Shit up that I set up trap. And then later Cujo Goody said on thought process, he said, back when my old bird was something serving in the trap. This was on Goody Mob's Soul Food album. It's like 94, 95.
Wow.
And so those are probably like the first 2 times that they were on a mainstream record. And of course, Big Boy said it on that album.
Yeah.
Sporty Odie Dopalicious.
Yeah.
It was just a regular term. And then I think around 2000, it just actually took on a life of its own.
Yeah.
You know, when Gucci, Jeezy, and Tip came, it was like they kind of took ownership of it and took it to a whole nother level. Like with trap music, T.I. and then Trap or Die with Jeezy. They basically took it to they kind of said this is what the sound is going to be. Yeah, and it took on a life of its own after that.
Yeah. Do you see trap lasting for like a long time as a subgenre, or how do you see trap's lifespan just lasting throughout future decades?
It's interesting because it's like before I decided to do the book, I was like, you know, we've had like several music genres that pop. We had crunk. Yeah. Like crunk probably had like 3 or 4 years. Yeah. You know, but they had a good run though. It was like those crunk years. Yeah. Lil Jon had a great run. Like no, for real. Like those are still bangers to this day. Yeah. Then we had the Snap era. Yep. The Snap era that probably lasted for like 2 years, maybe. Probably like 2 years. Yeah. We had the futuristic swag.
Hey, that's my favorite. Rich Kids, that's like one of my favorite groups to this day, man.
Yeah, so the futuristic swag era, that was another subgenre of Atlanta that came out. Yeah. And so trap, you know, the interesting thing about trap is that the reason why I think it's still relevant is because the sound has changed. It's kind of evolved over time, right? So first you had producers like Toomp and Zaytoven. Yep. Kind of like starting it out, and then Shawty Red, they were kind of like starting out this trap sound, and then it goes to Metro Boomin, and then like he does it in the 808 Mafia, you know what I'm saying? So they take it to another level, and so I think the reason why it's evolved is because the producers have evolved and the artists have evolved. Yeah. And so, you know, although it started with like a T.I., Jeezy, and Gucci, and then you get a Future, and then you get Amigos, and then you get Baby, and then you get a Gunna. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it continued to kind of like, you know, new artists continue to feed into it. Yeah. So I don't know how long it's gonna last. With genres, they always come and go. Yeah. But you know, trap has probably been around for it's been 20 years now.
That's crazy to
it's
say,
20 years
man.
that trap
2
music.
Decades.
Yeah, 2 decades for trap music, and that's, you know, that's a testament to just Atlanta. And the thing is that because the producers were able to evolve, it became a pop sound. So you saw pop artists like Katy Perry using trap music and like trap beats, and so you know, it's something that's morphed, man. It's definitely evolved, and so as long as the artists evolve, it's going to continue.
Yeah, man, that's dope. Yeah. On your page, man, I remember this might have been like 2 years ago, and it was crazy. You had like a list of, if you really from Atlanta, you would have done these 10 things. You was talking about going to the Doug High School football game, getting fresh. Oh man, Devin, Doug High School graduate, he takes pride in that, man. So seeing that, like, how do you think right now, just honestly, do you feel like people know what Atlanta culture truly is, or do we just think is what we see on like TV? Because everything that you had like on that list was super niche. So do you feel like people don't really know like about Doug, just going to the high school football games, going to the skating rinks, all those things like that?
Well, it's going to always be aspects of Atlanta culture that a lot of people don't know about, because I think we have like our own, like, different neighborhoods and communities have their own way of doing things.
That's real.
And so I don't know if people like the Yeek. I think the Yeek dance is really specific Atlanta. Yeah. Because when I posted the Yeek, I did like a video last week of like the Yeek Fest, and like a lot of people from different cities was like hitting me up like, "What is that? What is the Yeek?" Like they still haven't heard about it, but it was a big dance in Atlanta in like in the, I guess, late 80s, early 90s. So there's still aspects of our culture that people don't know about. Yeah, and it's always going to be that way because we're always coming up with something new. Man. But yes, I think Atlanta's culture is growing. Yeah. I remember seeing Michael Jackson doing the Bankhead bounce during the MTV Music Awards.
I never knew that. That's crazy.
Michael Jackson did the Bankhead bounce.
That's crazy.
I think it was like 96 or 97. He was on the MTV Awards, and he did the bankhead bounce, man. I'm just like, what? Michael Jackson's doing the bank? Yo, Michael Jackson did the bankhead bounce, man. That was like one of the biggest moments in Atlanta.
That's crazy.
Michael Jackson doing the bankhead bounce.
He said, I'm tapped
on
in.
MTV. Yeah, that was it.
Wow.
That was it. That was bigger than Beyonce doing Kilo.
Wow.
It's Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Ain't
no topping that.
Ain't no topping that. Doing the bankhead bounce. That was like, man, like, people are really recognizing what we're doing now.
Man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I never knew that. Fun fact. Amaretta, recently she caused a big craze about what is Atlanta, what's not Atlanta. You know, people from Clayco being mad. Gwinnett. For you, real Atlanta native still here, what is considered truly Atlanta? In your own personal opinion.
Yeah, man, I think it's just, who we are.
Yeah.
Like, the lingo. When you shake somebody's hand, they're from Atlanta. Just to me, if you went to high school here, you definitely know what it is. It's just, I don't know, it's just something that's in the air. Something that's in the water that you already know that. Because we have a lot of outsiders that's come from different cities, and they pretty much say, "Oh, I'm from Atlanta," but they're from different city. They're from like Baltimore, Chicago, or something, or Detroit. Try to claim Atlanta, and that was the thing, man. Like a lot of people, they run from their problems and they come to Atlanta. So I don't know what it is. It's like everybody think that their problems are going to be solved once they move to Atlanta. So yeah, man, it's just something that's in the sauce of Atlanta, man. And I hope that we maintain it. Yeah. Because there's so many outsiders that's here now that it can kind of like dilute who we really are. But I think we have to kind of maintain what it means to be from Atlanta and what it means to be an Atlanta person. So I'm hopeful that in the future that we'll continue to kind of like put on and just like represent well.
I love that, man. AR, again, I respect you greatly. I see you everywhere all the time, man. What drives you as a dope Black journalist, man, to just always stay active? Because whether it's BBC, ABC, like I said, all the letters, NBC, BT, Revolt, like you're just always active. You can easily just write blogs and do small things, but man, instead you're doing big articles, big publications, and then at the same time you're doing visuals, video interviews. Like you're super versatile. What drives you every single day to just keep going?
So the thing is, man, I'm a big history buff.
Yeah,
and I'm like, we're living history right now. Their generation. Like I don't do this for like I do it for our community, but for me, it's like I think we're at a time where the thing is like with your creativity, you can live forever. You know what I'm saying? With your words, you can live forever. With your visuals, you can live forever. Yeah. And so I think we're in a moment where we're actually living history. Yeah, we're like witnessing it right now. Yeah. And so you have to be there. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you never know what it's gonna be like, 10, 15 years from now when someone's gonna like ask you, okay, what was it like when you did this? Or what was it like when you did that? Yeah. And I think we have to take those opportunities. There's so many people in the world that will never get their story told. They'll never get an opportunity to tell their story in different ways. And I think when, being a Black journalist and being in the media, we have an opportunity to tell stories every day. And we have to really take advantage of that and really understand the importance of that and don't mess over it. You know what I'm saying? Really take pride in the art, take pride in what we do, and understand that you're creating stories and creating content for people that's going to be watching you 50 years from now. That's
true.
It's like when you're long gone, people are going to be pulling up your podcast like, oh, wow, he was doing this in 2022.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you got to understand like you're in a moment where you're able to capture and create the history and tell the stories of what's happening in your generation. That's a powerful tool. I think early on, we didn't really have those opportunities a lot of times. And so a lot of times other people told our stories. Yeah. And so for us, we had the opportunity to tell our stories. You talk about, Toni Morrison and, individuals who have always like, been able to kind of tell our stories. Yeah. And so that's an important thing, man. Just use these moments. Just use it. Yeah. And like really understand that, this is something that you've been gifted with. You know what I'm saying? If you've been gifted with something, take pride in it and like, really own it. You know what I'm saying? Take control of it, study it, get better at it. You know, want to be the best at it. You know, don't settle for less and just continue to improve every day.
Man, that's heavy. One of my last two questions, because you've been so gracious, man, with your time. Do you feel pressure sometimes as a Black journalist to put on for your people, your city, or do you just go out and just have fun with it each and every time? How do you feel sometimes?
It's fun, man. To me, you know, I kind of, it's like sports. You know, I'm, you know, when I'm out here creating stories or getting stories, I feel like I'm Kobe or LeBron. Like I want to drop 40. I want to drop 50, man. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I want to really be in that moment. I really want to be able to take a small concept and tell a big story. You know, that's to me, that's the major thing. It's like, you know, I have that hunger to always be the best at what I do.
I love that.
And so I don't, you know, whatever it takes. You know, sometimes we don't get sleep. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we have to sacrifice a lot of time to make sure that we're telling the best and being the best. Telling the best story. So, for me, it's just that desire to constantly want to do better, constantly want to get better at what I do. And so as long as I have that hunger, I'm going to always be out. I'm always going to be in a place where it's like I'm in the midst of what's happening now. So I could put my spin on what we're going through as a generation.
Man, I love that. What do you think separates A.R. Shaw as a journalist from all the other journalists and fake journalists sometimes? That's the bloggers, social media era. What do you think separates you? Because what you do is extremely special.
No, I appreciate it, man. I mean, I don't even really look at it as, you know, as something that's like I'm separated from anybody. I'm just, to me, I don't see anybody else. It's kind of like when you run a track, you just looking ahead. You just looking at the finish line, right? And so for me, I'm always focused on the finish line. I'm always focused on like doing the best job that I could do, doing the best that I can. And so I don't really like pay attention to like, you know, if my contemporaries are doing good, I always give them props because I think as a journalism community, we always got to stick together at all times. But for me, it's just like, just doing what I do. You know, I feel like I can tell a story like no one else can tell a story because I have a past that no one else has. And I think we have to all do that. You have to always put in your own sauce or however you do your thing, you have to make sure that you own that moment and own who you are. And so for me, that's what I do. I just own who I am as A.R. Shaw. That's what I do. I own who I am. And it's been working for me, man. And I'm gonna continue doing what I'm doing. I'm gonna continue to be out here. I'm gonna continue to like capture these moments, capture Black culture, speak to our community, try to uplift our community the best way I can. Try to bring up that next generation, man. And so that's basically what I'm focused on right now.
Man, before we bounce, I gotta ask you this because y'all, we got a great journalist in the building, legendary. How do you feel about this current era of people who have phones now and blogs? As a real journalist that's actually been through the fire, what is the main difference between journalism and what we're kind of seeing now with just everybody just posting stuff?
I think the best, well, that's something that I guess I kind of like fought with early on because I'm like, man, these people got blogs, but they're not even... I would get upset because it's like y'all not even doing y'all research. It's like it's like basic Google research.
You're just putting anything on.
You're just putting anything. You're not really like fact checking. You're not even like checking for grammar mistakes. It's just like, all right, what are y'all doing? But we can't control that, right? I think we can't really control that. I think because it's so easy for anyone to produce content right now. There's going to be a lot of people who slip through the cracks and not really do it justice. But I think we have to be the ones who actually do it justice. You know, for me, it's about research. It's about taking the time to make sure before I put something out that I'm fact checking. I'm making sure that this is really, you know, legit. I'm not going to put anything out that I know that's not real. You have journalists, you have bloggers who've been sued for actually lying. So, you know, you have, you know, who owe millions for lying. And it's just basic journalism 101 that you don't lie on anyone. You have to like put out factual information. And so, you know, for me, that's important, man, is to really do my work, do my homework.
Yeah.
And so I think as long as you do your homework, you don't have to worry about everybody else. You just make the greatest content that you can make, and then let everything else fall into place.
Man, that's perfect. AR,
Yeah.
Thank you, brother. Very last question. Where do you see AR Shaw within the next 5 to 10 years?
Man, just continue to doing what I'm doing, man. I think, try to give me a set like this and get my own podcast popping.
Yeah.
And just telling more stories.
Yeah.
There's always going to be stories to be told, and I'm just going to be on the front lines, making sure that I'm telling those stories and I'm putting myself in a position to tell the best story possible. So that's where I'm going to be in the next 5 to 10 years.
Thank you, man. Where can everybody follow you?
Yeah.
Check out Trap History, buy the book, keep up with you on social media, all that good stuff.
So you can buy the book. It's on Amazon, or you can go to traphistory.com, pick up the book today. You can follow me on Instagram, A.R. Shaw 23. You can follow my YouTube, A.R. Shaw TV on YouTube. On Twitter, I'm A.R. Shaw. Facebook, I'm A.R. Shaw. So just Google me, and everything is gonna pop up, man.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you for having me on this platform.
Likewise, bro. Like, when it comes to media journalism, I'm a nerd, so you got like all my wheels turning right now. Y'all, actually, I lied. Before we leave, AR, what do you want for people to actually gain from reading Trap History?
This is another tool I'm gonna give you, man. I think as a journalist and as a creator, we don't really own these. Like, it's kind of like it's something that we do, and then we gotta release it to the world, right? And so different people are going to have different perceptions about what it is. Everybody's not going to love your work. Some people are going to really love your work, but I don't think you got to be married in either one. You got to kind of be even killed to everything, because you never know how people are going to react to what you put out. All you can do is your best and put out your best product and your best work.
Wow.
So I never really focus on like how people will perceive it. I just focus on telling the best story that I could tell. And if I couldn't tell the best story and I couldn't connect with everybody on it, I understand that as well, because once I release it to the world, it's no longer, it don't belong to me anymore. It belongs to the world.
Wow.
It's like it's like if you buy a hat or some shoes, it's like once you buy the shoes, it's your shoes. So, when somebody buy the book, it's their book. They can do whatever they want to do with it. Hopefully they enjoy the book. But at the same time, I can't really, I don't really try to focus on the perception of what people were going to perceive from it. I just want them to delve into the story, give it an honest read, and then, we can have a discussion, once people like delve into it and actually get into the entire thing, then we can go from there.
Heavy. AR, thank you, brother. You're doing big things, man. Thank you so much. Y'all make sure to purchase the book, man. Show him support and love. Follow him on social as well. Make sure to follow us as well at 3 Milli Pod on social media. Shout out to the whole team, Devin, Sid, Quinn, man, for capturing this conversation. We appreciate y'all. Again, blessed be your host, Caleb Smith. See y'all soon. Peace.